Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate the time that you're taking to listen to me. If I sound a little bit off, I do have vestigial symptoms of a virus that I had, so please bear with me. Everything that say in this video is based on my personal perspective, opinions, and understanding of what's going on. I'm not a legal professional. I am just a lay person with an opinion. I will be quite careful in what I say in this video, but understand that what I state is my opinion and my opinion only. So, Chantal, also known as Foodie Beauty, has given the community, or her community, proof of life, proof of existence. I don't know the circumstances behind it, but I had suspected that she had fled Kuwait um, when around the time that she was being, people were talking about her committing crimes and so on. I don't know when that was, but it was strange with that video that she had. She and Salah were arguing and fighting and disrespecting each other. It was video proof that um, of her behavior. I'm not surprised that some of her Kuwait videos are gone, given that I believe she had broken the law. Now, do I believe that there were any official charges put against her? No, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any verified paperwork to make that determination. I don't think she would have stayed around long enough to get deported. I think she self deported with that. And I think it really hinged on her relationship with Salah as well. Uh, there are some people that said that she'd abandoned Salah and Julia. She abandoned Julia. She didn't abandon Salah. Julia has no control over her situation as a cat. I don't even know how Foodie acquired her. If she picked the cat up from the street, I don't know. But Julia was abandoned by her. Foodie doesn't care. Foodie um, didn't abandon her to someone who wouldn't take care of her, but I have no guarantee that Salah's going to pay any attention to her, to Julia. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up that second apartment or not. I think that's pretty much done. I think that whole Kuwait arc is done. I may have asserted that in an earlier video. I had intended to make a video about that, but because of stuff that's going on in my own personal life and feeling like it's pretty redundant, I didn't do it. But since Foodie did show up, I figured, well, there's something to talk about now. So I do not think she's going to face any legal repercussions. There are some things that she should be concerned about, but on the other hand, Canada is going to uphold her rights as a Canadian citizen. Um, did she technically break the law by going back and forth? I don't think so. Unless she was involved in some kind of organized crime with her grifting or fundraising over there, um, even as small as it was, that can be hardly construed as an international crime. And I don't think that's something that Interpol is going to intervene with, because they are selective about the cases that they facilitate. And so if she were doing some other shady shit, I mean, some seriously shady shit over there, and she was doing some pretty shady things, but if she were connected with terrorism or organized crime officially or anything like that, which I haven't seen any accusations of, it's not going to happen. There is no extradition treaty between Canada and Kuwait, and they're not going to comply with any urgency to do so based on this. Um, I thought maybe her passport would be flagged for that. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I don't know if she's out of the woods yet. Can the private organization sue Chantel for defamation? Can sue Chantel for this? Well, they can try in a civil court. Um, However, I don't know how far they would get internationally. It There have been international civil cases. There was one regarding the Rusek family against armchair detective. If you're familiar with the Christopher Watts case, you'll understand who the Ruseks are, and you'll understand some of these true crime channels that are less than responsible. So, the armchair detective, aka AD, done a lot of inappropriate things, and he was successfully sued by the Ruseks because of it. But that took quite some time, a lot of legal maneuvering, and um, it wasn't easy. I highly doubt that at this point Kuwait is even in a position or has any grounds to do that. I think that Chantal is pretty much out of the woods. She can't go back to Kuwait again. I mean, if she's done this already and they're still pressing with charges, or there's still any mention of any legal thing, whether it's real or not, if she were smart, she'd stay in Canada. So, yep, she's back in Canada. I'm assuming she's back in Canada and not anywhere else. Uh, the only thing is, like, let's say if Interpol were facilitating um, beauty, we're facilitating uh, extradition, let's say. They don't arrest anybody. They're just sort of the people who, the organization that are facilitators of these things. Like, let's say if she did go to a country that has an extradition treaty and her passport gets flagged, let's say, and there's still outstanding charges she needs, then, she'd be at risk. But I doubt it because the crimes she's alleged of, I don't think are that serious internationally. But I'm not a legal expert. I don't know what this is going to mean or what the rights of a private citizen in Kuwait or private organization in Kuwait would have in terms of this. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know like how far this is going to go. I don't think it's quite over for her yet. So I don't think it's quite over either legally. Um, like I said, she's not going back to Kuwait. And now with the political instability, and now with war in the Middle East, no way. I think that it's not over for her emotionally. That's something she's going to have to work through with a professional, because she's not going back there. She's not going to see Salah again. Now, like I said, if there were charges and Salah looks like he was implicated, he could be facing those things. And she didn't do anything about, that I know of provisioning anything for Julia's arrival in Canada or for her safety and well being, just left the cat there with Salah. That's what I understand. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. She did mention that people were complaining about her putting her deceased hamster Harry in the sand, burying him in the sand. Well, she shouldn't have done that. Now, I don't technically know in Kuwait what the procedure would have been, that if he were um, like buried in a public place, it poses a public hazard, especially to wildlife environmentally. I don't know if any scavengers are around there that would take that, but that could cause a lot of environmental issues. And generally, culturally, it's not something that done like that. So yes, she did most likely break the law, or at least break some sort of local ordinance, or policy, I should say, and some cultural boundaries, which she always does. And that's the thing, like Canada um, isn't going to really respond, especially if like there's some religious component into it, religious justice. I don't think that they would release Foodie for that. So she's in Canada for a while, unless she goes off somewhere else. But it's going to follow her. Her behavior will follow her. And unless she gets her personal self in order, she's going to find this wherever she goes. She's going to have a problem. She's going to have a problem. Now, in her live, she mentioned she's acquiring another cat. She doesn't realize that neglect of animals is abuse. Okay? Now, there's no international convention on the protection of animals. There is a proposal. I hope it will be considered. There aren't any international laws um, around this type of issue per se. There are with animal trafficking and all of that, poaching, stuff like that. If I understand that correctly, and maybe not poaching. I don't know about poaching, but I know with animal trafficking, bringing animals abroad for profit or something like that. But correct me if I'm wrong. But sh- that's not what Chantal is doing. But that's not what she's done with any of her animals. She has not brought animals over to Canada without the proper paperwork. I wish she had gotten certification for Julia, brought her up to date on her vaccines, and made provisions for her safety and well-being. But I can't guarantee that because Julia isn't going to be with her. She left her there, you know, and I don't know in what condition. I don't know why she didn't make provisions for her, why she didn't attempt. It would be hard to bring Julia across from Kuwait, but if she had the time and she wasn't in trouble with the law or anything like that, then maybe she could have had the time to bring Julia over from Kuwait to have a comfortable life in Canada, but that's not the case. So she's left and abandoned another animal, and now there will be a Smokey arc. Smokey is the new cat that she is going to acquire. She said in her live the cat was obese like her. I'm not going to say anything about her body, but I will say that an obese cat needs a lot of care. You can't feed it to death, you can't starve it. It needs a specialized regimental diet, and it needs care, especially if there are any other problems the cat has medically. She can't fund that, and she won't do that because she has a history of neglecting her animals or not giving them the proper treatment or even seeking out help in a responsible way. Now, I don't know if where she lives in Canada or if Canada, in any of the provinces or the local communities within the provinces, have what's called like these charities that provide health care for their animals, or food banks for animals, for people's pets. I know in my community there is. Now, there isn't much in the way of provisioning for animals' health care. You can apply for grants, and it's also an interstate thing, so that you can do. But in my community, like there are animal food banks where they make provisions for humans. There are also provisions for pets because there are studies to show the importance of pet and human companionship, pet and human family bond that is important for both the animal and the human. And so some local organizations where I live provide that to ensure that even low income people can give the love that they can for an animal instead of giving up an animal because their circumstances change or they they can't afford certain things. So this is like kind of money that bridges that. So um, yeah, I don't know if she has that, but I don't know how she's going to take care of this cat. I don't know. I don't know why she has to collect these animals wherever she goes. And she's not going to get back her other animals. She abandoned them. She abandoned them to go do this thing in Kuwait. She abandoned Julia with a quickness because she was in trouble, allegedly. Now she has Smokey, and so when the next guy comes along, or, or she goes to meet Salah somewhere, if he is allowed to leave the country, then she's going to abandon Smokey too. She hasn't dealt with her problems. She hasn't dealt with her instability. And her irresponsibility around animals will follow her wherever she goes. Why anybody would surrender an animal to her is beyond me. She has to do something about what's going on with her internally. And now that she's resettled in Canada, hopefully she'll get the mental health and physical treatment she needs. But no, she's going to keep up the same BS because if she's taking care of herself, she's not going to make any money. People will enable this, you know. People will keep enabling this behavior. I mean, I won't say I'm not relieved or anything. I am relieved she's back in Canada for many reasons. And she, I don't think she's a good person, but I think I was really kind of concerned about whether or not she would get that due process, what would become of her. And, the punishment should match the crime ideally, but, um, she was facing some severe consequences. There would have been no guarantee of her health and well-being, and especially when it's in an unstable region now. She had no business being there to begin with, in my opinion, but she had the freedom of travel. So what am I going to say, right? What am I going to say about it? And she's not technically married to Salah. She's not married to him. I don't know what they are because I don't think their relationship was a conjugal relationship. She can't bring him over here, especially now that he might be tied up in some criminal case. He's from Syria, so Canada would have to perform some extra security measures around any background check. She doesn't have the money to sponsor him. She would have to sponsor him for a year here. She wouldn't be able to do it, even if she were on disability. Like if she were disabled, they would not have prevented her from having a partner come across. But he's not in a stable situation himself. How would she have taken care of his needs for a year? She isn't taking care of herself properly. I don't think they'll judge that, but they'll do a medical report, I think, on him. How is she going to address something that happens? She's not capable of doing that. She hasn't shown that she can manage well with a partner or help her partner through anything. I mean, if she's not taking care of her animals properly, how is she going to take care of people properly? So no, I mean, Salah's chance at Canada, I think didn't he apply a couple of times? I don't remember. And he got rejected. Well, you know, I don't know if that was before the Foodie Beauty arc um, or that happened in the Kuwait arc, which became the Kuwait arc between Foodie Beauty and him, that she tried to apply for him. I'm hard pressed to believe that she was able to come up with that kind of money to apply for him twice, or even once for that matter. But I don't think there will be any more Salah. I think in her mind she'll hang on to him. In her mind she'll not let this go. This ship has sailed. She's probably not going to allow the emotional part of it. And she needs to see a professional, and she needs to get help with other things, instead of getting caught up in this fantasy that is counterproductive. I mean, that's my take on what's going on now. I don't know if I'll be talking more about this in the future or not. I don't see any point. I really don't want to see the next phase of Foodie Beauty with cat number 50, or whatever it is, that however many times she's acquired cats and let them go. Um, I don't want to see that. That's all I have to say on this. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye bye.